It is a story. It's quite a story here at the top of the hour. Inter Milan and Benfica will square off at the San Siro, and all eyes will be on that one because it is interestingly poised. In fact, Inter Milan, they are proving to be the ultimate knockout team. Yeah, they've been pretty ordinary in Serie A, but what a run they are having in the Champions League, and it continued in Lisbon last week. They were the only team in the quarterfinals to record an away win in the first leg.
Benfica, the home side, hoping to reach their first semi-final of the Champions League era. Inter hoping to reach their first since 2010, when they went on to lift the trophy. Istanbul is the aim. Decent looking ball that. And Di Marco's header so beautifully for Rafa Silva. Good save by Onana. Stoney's crosses a really teasing one. There's it! Barella with the header. Inter have the lead.
He's going to give a penalty, is he? Yes, he is.
He's given the penalty. It's handball by João Mario. 2-0. Would seem to have a foot in the semi-finals of the Champions League. Lovely ball. Gonzalo Ramos, good save. What an important save that could be in the tie from Andre Onana. It's the best chance Benfica have had all game, and it is the last kick of the game.
Before Lisbon, Inter Milan had endured 6 matches without a win. Before Lisbon, the last time Inter scored 2 goals in a game was on March 3. What happened in Lisbon?
It was a Champions League match. I said like as a knockout team, but I think in general I'm happy to see Italian teams do well. We see AC Milan back again in Champions League now. We see Inter 2-0 win now at home, looking good for them. And the reason is because they play I think a different style. Napoli, of course, the Italian team that really plays attacking football, the more modern football. Right. But when you go to Italy, the emphasis they put on the defensive side of the game is unmatched anywhere else in the world.
And it is typical, isn't it? It was a typical Italian team performance.
I don't know if we still remember Catenaccio football, the label of football from back in the day, but Inter is so solid. It was a clean sheet again, Benfica, the biggest chance to say in the last minute really of the game. And AC Milan hold Napoli 2 times to very defensive, solid effort. They scored 93rd minute yesterday. But it's a type of football that I don't think we're much used to again these days. As we see Inter not doing too great in some of the other matches, but when it really matters, Inter does have that success formula still in their genes. They have that experience, and I think it's part of why they're doing so good, because of that defensive effort.
Yeah, Inter's inconsistent season has been maddening for the bookies. They've picked up, just 1 point in their last 5 Serie A games. So I'm trying to understand what have been the factors which has seen this Italian team be successful in this Champions League season.
Well, Eric touched on it. Is just the defense really. They have 6 clean sheets in their 9 games. They've just tried to be as solid as possible. Inter, they were heading towards that modern football with Conte at first, ironically, and then Inzaghi, who developed on it last season. They went to Barca last season, played some really good stuff. But this season, they've gone back to their roots. That 3-5-2, it's been more solid. They've just been looking to play some hard football. It's a classic Italian team, really, and they're playing really well. They're being really decisive in the final third as well, taking their chances. And Benfica have a really tall order now. Benfica are a team that has never beaten Inter Milan in 4 games historically. So it's going to be really difficult for them to overcome them now.
There's the old adage, of course, that says defense wins championship, and Andre Onana has been brilliant in the goal. How has he been able to become the #1 over the club captain, Samir Handanovic?
It's a joy for me because as a big Ajax supporter, seeing Onana reach the Ajax several years ago, we saw the quality that he had, and he's a real quality keeper who I think if he keeps his off-the-field issues out of the picture, he can really be one of the best keepers, if not the best keeper in the world. But it has been difficult for him to keep his mind focused and really on doing the task that he has at hand. So as much as he's challenging Handanovic for that first spot, I don't think he has reached the stage that he is fully secured in really establishing himself as the top keeper, the best keeper in the Serie A. So he still has some work to do, but I can guarantee you he has the potential and the talent to really be the best keeper in the world.
Yeah, he's an all-round keeper, the modern keeper, as one might say. Shot stopping, sweeping, distribution. He has it all. As Eric says, he's just really maintaining focus on football. But in that performance last week, yes, Benfica didn't create a host of pure or easy goal-scoring chances for him to really come out as a complete hero. But in terms of his consistency all across the season, he's just been fantastic, especially in the Champions League.
And Inter, of course, they've never been eliminated from a European Cup knockout tie after winning the first leg by at least 2 goals. And I suppose that history is on their side here, because their defense has really stood up to the occasion when it's necessary.
Yeah, and they're playing at home now.
Yeah.
So it's a tall order to fill for Benfica, but 2-0 is better than 3-0. Some other team today.
Let's switch to Benfica now, because they have been high scoring this season, but they only had 2 shots on target in the first leg. They really have chosen the worst time to be on this losing streak. 3 straight matches now.
Do you choose it, or is that part of the season? Because what it really comes down to, and we see these teams like Benfica that have a great season, or Napoli, are they used to reaching down into April, May, and still be able to have the squad fully fit? You know, all these teams that we look at Madrid, as City, even a Bayern, they have enough quality to rotate players throughout the season, and especially at this part. I look at Benfica and I'm thinking, can the top players actually be rotated out? No. Gonzalo Ramos needs to play 90 minutes and needs to play good. João Mario needs to play 90 minutes and needs to play good. Otamendi, who's a senior player, he needs to probably have one of his best matches to really perform, and I think that is a difference, and that is what Benfica is struggling with now. You get some tired legs into the team, and you don't really have the personnel to keep rotating so they're fresh enough for these top matches.
Jose Mourinho, when he was in charge of Manchester United, he spoke at a press conference and mentioned the term football heritage when he was defending the poor record of Manchester United in these European matches. Benfica, now they're in the position. They have never advanced, however, to the semis of the Champions League under its current name. So tell me, in terms of football heritage, what does that say about Benfica's chances today?
It's really interesting, actually, because Benfica are a team, they won the European Cup twice in the early 1960s. But there's a lot of people may not know they got cursed by their former manager. That former manager who coached them to those 2 titles, he wanted a pay raise back then. And Benfica said no, he left the club and he cursed them and he said Benfica will not win a European title for the next 100 years. Since then they've lost 8 European finals, the last coming as the Europa League in 2014. So maybe this is part of the curse, because theoretically there should be a better team than Inter. They should have maybe gotten the better of them, but maybe it's just a combination of the curse and then Inter also having that European pedigree. So let's see how this will play out.
How many years ago was this?
Oh, this is probably like, this is what going to be like the 61st.
Oh, okay.
So they still have a good while to go.
So there are intangibles in football then, obviously.
Clearly.
Well, you know, I think yesterday was similar story. Napoli had never reached the semi-finals, and I think they were in a much better position to reach there. So yeah, good luck to Benfica today. But I think it will be not a great day for them.
Nicolas Otamendi, of course, was out on cards in the first leg. He returns to the starting lineup, and is it a necessary return, because he has been involved in their last 2 defeats in their domestic league? So is that a change that they would say, okay, improvement right away?
Yeah, I think so, because when it comes down to it, yes, we know Nicolas Otamendi has been an erratic defender, but he's a World Cup winning defender. Now we have to put that on his CV.
Yes,
he's a Premier League winning defender. He's gone down into the latter stages of the Champions League as well. He's a defender that knows how to cross the line in certain games, and it's not like he had a big part role in the World Cup as well. He started most of the games and the big games as well. It's because managers trust him to be the leader, be very vocal. He's a very experienced player now, and I'm sure Eric can tell you as a coach as well, you need those players. Yes, they may have inadequacies in certain areas, but leadership, especially at the back, is very important.
And especially in matches like this, where you don't want to panic, you want a player who realizes, I've seen everything, and I've also been in situations where we can overcome these situations. So it's great for him to be back for Benfica, and I think even looking at the matches, they say, where they didn't win, I think a lot of it comes down to the front line. You know, João Mario, when they were firing on all cylinders throughout the season, João Mario was on form, and being a big part of that, he has not been for the last few matches. Ramos has to be scoring for Benfica to play good. So it's the type of game that Benfica plays where if the front line is not doing a good job, it's going to be difficult for them to win matches. They're not the Italian style that we might see from Inter.
And the thing about it is that, you mentioned Ramos and him being out of form, but he has other qualities that he utilizes so well for Benfica, and that's why they have been so successful this season. 299 presses, in fact, for Benfica in this season's Champions League campaign. It is the most by any striker, but he needs to now break this 3-game streak without scoring.
Yeah, Benfica, they're coached by Roger Smith. He's a German-style coach, so they're very aggressive in the press. They like to be very vertical in their play. When they get in and around the box, they like to do it with crosses and cutbacks. So that's how they create a lot of their chances. So a lot of their goals come from central players. So Goncalo Ramos, who has 25 this season, João Mario has 23 this season. So as Eric said, if those players aren't contributing, they're not going to be doing well in terms of a goal-scoring sense. So first of all, they need to be able to possess the ball better, and they need to get it as vertical as possible. And against this Inter team who play through at the back, who play very compact in the middle, it's always going to be difficult for them to generate the same type of chances that they were accustomed to getting.
But Ramos is, what, 21 years old now? I mean, he did kind of burst onto the scene for a lot of people in the World Cup when he scored the hat-trick, when, of course, he replaced Cristiano Ronaldo in that starting lineup. Is he now feeling that pressure? Does he get a pass because he's so young and new into the game?
No, at this point you realize how good is a player really, a young player really. And yes, it's not no final conclusion whether he cannot be a top striker because he's now not firing, scoring goals at this stage. But it is something when you realize what is he made of, because we also look at top strikers like a Haaland who show it, you know, and we look at this is the moment we're going to judge players, how good are they. You reach the Champions League, knockout stages, a team need goals. Can you step up when you get the chance now? Even look at this one from last match, and that was one of those moments. You know, how important will Ramos be for the history books of Benfica? It's these moments that you should have put it in the net. But of course, he has a lot of potential, and whether he scores today or not, I think he will be a big transfer target in the summer.
But that's where the mentality of the team has to now come into play, and that's where the coach gets involved in terms of trying to get the best out of this pretty young squad.
Yeah, football is a pressure sport. Benfica, they haven't been doing the best domestically over the past couple of seasons, because this is the first time in a while that they're leading the Portuguese league at this point in the past couple of seasons. So he's gotten back a winning mentality into the team. They were winning games all throughout the season, but now they've come to know this. As you mentioned, the coach will have to try and use his experience to drag the squad, players like Otamendi as well, because they've hit a rough patch. It's come at the worst possible time for them, so they'll need to overcome this. The young players, football is a pressure sport. In order to make your money, in order to be an elite player, you have to be able to handle pressure well. And I think Goncalo Ramos is going to have to show what he's made of. João Mario, players like that, who's an experienced player as well, he'll have to try and drag this team as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they deal with that all across the squad, really.
But they are playing a very strong Inter squad, strong in mindset in terms of their defensive output, which means that they have to use initiative. They are behind on the tie. They have to do something special to beat this Inter team in the second leg.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see somewhat typical Benfica football. As we were saying earlier, that the high press, they're trying to win it high up the field. They're trying to play a very high energetic game. But the thing is going to be crucial as well to stop Inter from using the wide areas. Inter in the 3-5-2 with Dumfries and not sure who's playing on the other side, DiMarco playing on the other side. Once they are able to stretch the field wide and use those areas in attack, it becomes very a game that Inter tries to control and can control. If Benfica kind of stops them from reaching in their defensive third, the Inter's attacking third, they're able to win the ball high up. It can be a game where Benfica create chances, and once they take those chances, I think that type of game they need if they want to get the result out of this.
I know teams always say that they're just concentrating on the matchup ahead, so they're not looking ahead to the future or whatever, but surely surely AC Milan winning yesterday, the second leg, and overall on aggregate, it sweetens the pot for Inter Milan to get a victory today.
Yeah, it would definitely. If they want to get to the Champions League final, I'm sure they'll want to do it by beating their fierce rivals in AC Milan. Inter Milan, they have a very proud history. I think they'll definitely want to, just get one up on AC Milan, but they'll have to pass this game first. This game still will be a test. It's going to be a tough one for them regardless, because whenever you go into a game with a defensive mindset, it's always going to cause problems for you initially at the very least.
Some say 2-0 is the most dangerous score to have in football, but we'll see.
All right, what we're going to do now, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll take a look at the starting lineups of both these teams. But I can tell you, from the 9 previous occasions in which they have lost the first leg of a European Cup knockout by at least 2 goals, Benfica have only progressed once. The 61-62 season, they got the better of Nuremberg and then went all the way to the final, beating Real Madrid.